Hey guys, thanks for joining the webinar today. We're going to get started in the next couple of minutes or so. I'm Megan. I'm an onboarding specialist here at Meet Edgar, and I'll be leading today's chat about varying your tweets. My colleague Jessica is actually going to be doing the chat. So if you actually look over on your left, or excuse me, the right side of your screen, there'll be a little chat box. Feel free to pop your questions in there at any time. Let us know what comes up. At the end of the webinar, definitely let us know your feedback as well. You can email support@meetedgar.com to let us know different topics that you're interested in learning about for our webinar series, as well as any other questions you have about setting up your Edgar account. We love to hear from the community, so definitely don't be shy about reaching out. And we'll get started in about 2 minutes here. Thanks for your patience. All right, guys, we're going to get started in a minute here. I just wanted to introduce myself for those who just joined. I'm Megan. I'm an onboarding specialist here at Meet Edgar, and I'll be leading the webinar today. My colleague Jess is actually going to be going ahead and monitoring the chat over on your right, so feel free to pop any questions in there throughout the webinar. Afterwards, definitely let us know your thoughts, feedback on the webinar too. You can do this by emailing support@meetedgar.com. We love hearing from the community, so definitely don't be shy about that. And it is 1 o'clock EST, 10 a.m. PST, so we will go ahead and get started here. So definitely thanks for joining us today as we chat a little bit about Twitter's new terms of service and how this fits in with your social media workflows. So for a little bit of background, in the past, actions like recycling your tweets and posting them again and again over time has been considered a pretty good practice for marketers, but it's been abused by some and did become problematic in excess when users started posting the same tweets every couple of minutes when spammers started doing this on Twitter. So by comparison, we want to make sure that you guys are still staying with this great strategy of reposting your evergreen content, but making sure that that tweet is not going to is not going to be out of line with Twitter's new terms and services. So it's no longer the case that you can repeat your evergreen content, and this is significantly going to change the way that you're adding posts to Edgar, but it's not going to change the way that he's still going to provide so much value and automation for you. So we'll cover some of these changes today, but also remember that the strategy on Twitter will still be the same of connecting authentically with your followers. If you go beyond these rules to get a better understanding of your community's interests, their needs, their mindsets, and their behaviors beyond wanting to keep on following you, you'll still be able to get that true authentic connection to make sure that your tweets are really increasing that all-important know, like, and trust factor that does so well with social media automation. So we will jump right in today. So first, if you haven't heard yet, Twitter has made these big changes to their terms and services, and your account could actually get banned if you're in violation from these. So what used to be kind of social media marketing practices that were pretty standard in repeating your content will no longer be allowed. And when I say these standard social media marketing practices, I'm talking about recycling through that evergreen content to get the most out of your blogs and to make sure you're sharing your hard work on Twitter so it's seen by the majority of your followers. On March 23rd, Twitter did put some rules in place that make this practice against their terms and service. So why does this matter? Essentially, before, when you would recycle through your content, you would be resharing your most popular blog post multiple times in a month or even in the first day that it was released to get those warm leads, to get that traffic to your site. This allowed your users not only to get to your site easier, to get that content right in front of them in a way they didn't have to search for it online. This idea really came from the fact that only about 10% of your followers ever see anything you post on social. So getting it in front of different cohorts who are online at different times is a really awesome strategy. And when the half-life of a tweet is only about 30 minutes, there's not too many people who are actually seeing it when they're scrolling through their feed. So this practice has so many benefits behind it. And if it's done correctly, and every time we're getting our content out there, it's seen by a different user group of our followers, it can really help to increase that traffic to our site. And we can help get people who might have missed it the first time they saw it. We can get people who are in different time zones than we might be when we're posting. And the problem goes even further, that when fewer than half of the people on Twitter are checking Twitter even once per day, posting the same update once per day isn't going to get that in front of the majority of your audience. But before we scare you off too much that this isn't allowed anymore, this strategy can still be utilized on Twitter. We just have to make a couple of tweaks to how we do it, which is actually going to help to create a better bond with your audience and stay more authentic on social media. And I really think you'll see some awesome benefits if you still use this strategy, just staying in line with Twitter's terms and services. So the first thing that should change with this is there can be no identical content from more than one Twitter account. This means you can't write an update and send it, for example, to both your personal account and to your company's branded account. And this means if you're using a scheduler like Edgar, you can no longer check off more than one Twitter account on the content composer to have that tweet go out to both of them at the same time. Rest assured, Edgar does have precautions that have been put in place that no longer let you check off two Twitter accounts in the composer. So if you are a current Edgar user, we've got your back. We're not going to let you be in violation of this new rule. No worries there. If you haven't had any of our email updates reach you recently, you will know there's actually a super simple way to do this in Edgar. If you go to your library, we have a bulk edit feature that you'll see. And if you email support@meetedgar.com, we're more than happy to let you know where to get to that as well. But the bulk edit feature will actually allow you to deselect a Twitter account if some of your existing content in the library has multiple Twitter accounts. It'll let you deselect that in one swoop. So no worries, you don't have to go through your entire library and deselect the Twitter accounts there. And if you need any help with this, like I said, please email us out. But again, if you do leave your content in your library, we've got your back. What's going to happen to that existing content in the library is Edgar's actually just going to send it to the first Twitter account alphabetically that you have it attached to. So regardless of if you go ahead and fix this in your library or not for your existing tweets, Edgar won't let you violate that new term of service. The next main change is a bit more significant here. So Twitter now says no duplicate update on the same Twitter account can be used. And this is a biggie in that people will probably be more in violation with than the previous update. So right now, when you publish a new post, you probably repeat the same tweet a few times a day, a few times a week to promote it and get those warm leads attracted to it. So you may have this set up on your weekly recurring calendar in Edgar. You may have a blog post going out, every hour on some days that you release it. You may have these going out throughout the day, so you're reaching different time zones in the middle of the night. And this is going to have you recycle through your content in the library pretty quickly if you are pumping out blog posts, if you are trying to get all your value-added content out to your Twitter followers. So be aware that we are going to be working on new features to help you make sure that you're always having your queue full for Twitter. So this is what we started talking about at the beginning. It's just making sure you're adding in different types of updates to continue to automate your evergreen content. But know, again, that Edgar does have your back here. We'll be sending out reminders when your Twitter queue does get low, letting you know you need to add in that fresh content. So how the heck do you promote the same link, but you do not use the same tweet? You might be thinking now. Later in this webinar, we will cover those tactics. So rest assured, you'll get a little value there. But start looking for clues in your blogs now about what you're talking about around the office. Think about how you describe your product to a new person you meet on the street. You're probably going to cater that language a little differently, whether you're talking to someone who's in your industry directly, whether you're talking to someone who doesn't really know about your industry. And think about the language you're using, how it differs there, and how you can actually go ahead and craft tweets out of that. This will be really beneficial, again, connecting authentically with different segments of your community. A different verb or a different way of describing an article might resonate with someone differently than it would for a different segment. So don't see this as a really negative thing. Don't see this change as something that's going to be terrible for your Twitter strategy. It actually might help you relate and connect and drive more and more traffic to your posts if it is forcing you to get a little more creative with the way you're describing the links you're leading people to on your blog, the landing pages you're going to, and creating that consistent environment for people to really, again, know, like, and trust your brand on social media. So again, no worries. You can still promote the same link. You can still get your same blog post out there multiple times. You just can't use the exact same tweet each time you do this. And at Meet Edgar, we're definitely building some awesome automation tools to handle this for you. Cool. So along with reminding you that your Twitter queue is low, that feature will be released pretty soon here. Edgar will also be allowing you to add variations of the post to the library. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a really rad feature in order to keep you nice and streamlined with this new process. And this means you can introduce your blog post with different headlines or alter the questions you're asking before it, or put a couple of different quotes before the blog post when you're getting it out to Twitter. And you can add all of these to the library all at once. So this automation is going to be awesome for getting all these variations in, but still automating evergreen content. And you know, the harsh truth when it comes down to social media is that planning it out is probably going to be your best option. I know it may seem like it takes a little bit more time, but if you leave it to the last minute, you're probably not going to do it. So make sure you're taking advantage of the awesome features we'll be releasing, planning out your social updates, variations, getting them in your library so you don't have that excuse and you don't have that last minute struggle to try to come up with an update when you need to get something out on Twitter. And once you do have these awesome variations in the composer as you're adding them in, Edgar's new library will actually be organized to show you these variations right up in center. So it'll be a really simple, organized flow that you're used to in the Edgar library, but you'll be able to see those variations, having you rest assured that, great, I have enough content going out that it's going to be varying my tweets. So instead of posting your variations back to back, don't worry, as you see them in the library there, we're not going to send that same blog post out each time Edgar hits that category on your schedule. He's actually going to spread them out over time. So he'll cycle through your content and make sure that different update goes out. He'll still work in that awesome last in, first out order, really prioritizing that freshest content you're adding there. So here's where the magic really does happen. You'll want to keep that same strategy of promoting your tweet, getting that fresh content out there. But all you need to do is stay in compliance with Twitter is to add a handful of these variations to get people to your blog posts and to make sure that you're really keeping the library nice and organized and really freeing up your day to work on the other important parts of your business. So lots of really fun and exciting new features. Like I said, those will be released in the next few weeks here. Keep an eye out. We'll be sending emails, of course. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to email support@meetedgar.com. And it really is going to be a fun and creative way for you guys to think about connecting with your community a little bit differently, but still making sure those same strategies that work so well with recycling through evergreen content are front and center in your marketing strategy. Cool. So before we talk about any more changes, we'll talk a little bit about what's staying the same. And that's that tweets are supposed to increase that all-important know, like, and trust factor that we've been talking about. So when people are constructing tweets in your marketing team, remember the goal is to keep social social. Every single tweet should be filtered through this lens of community building and adding value to someone's day. You want to always show that you care about your community before you can expect them to care about you. And caring about your community can be something as simple as creating a killer blog post, making sure you're getting those tips that people can read and consume really quickly on social media as they're going throughout their day on a consistent basis, so they come to rely and see you as an expert in your industry. Beyond that, it can be something as simple as adding inspiration to someone's day. You know, think about how a quote could make someone smile or make someone feel really motivated. And they are then going to associate that feeling with your brand, which is awesome because we all know humans are driven mostly by emotion. And last, think about how your community can be added value with humor. So many brands who might think they have a really dry product can get huge, huge followings by just making their updates really funny, by personalizing them, by not only taking themselves so seriously on social media. Your community really doesn't expect perfection from you on social media. So experiment, see what other industries are doing, get yourself out there and be really vulnerable with your community as well. Make sure you're interacting with them and getting that humor out there to bring, again, someone's smile to someone's face, associating it with your brand can go a long way in building a strong relationship. And what we'll be focusing on for the majority of the webinar here is this idea of upcycling. So when you have this great blog post and you spend all of this time getting all that content out there, think about how you can upcycle it. And we've chatted a little bit about pulling tips out of the blog post. And these are just small consumable bits of information that are standalone content. So of course, we want people to be able to click on your link, drive more traffic to your site, read the entire blog post. But again, the harsh reality is a lot of people are just getting their information in quick 2-minute segments when they're on Twitter or when they're on Facebook. So pulling out these 2-minute segments of something someone can read and offering value right in the tweet rather than just offering them the link can again be another really awesome way for you to get more content out on Twitter, however, in a different form that some segments of your audience might connect with better than your traditional just blog link out there. And think about what other interests your core audience may have. Twitter's analytics and Facebook Insights have such a wealth of information around the demographics and interests that your audience has, from their favorite TV shows to their favorite sports teams to different groups they're following. Go out and see what other industries are doing and go out and see what other interests your core demographic has. For example, here at Meet Edgar, we are a social media automation service. So we focus a lot on social media marketing on our blog. We have a product that's surrounded by this, but we also want to make sure that we know our audience and we know that a lot of you are small business owners. So we write content that's really significant for getting your small business off the ground up and running. We're a remote work team here at Meet Edgar. So we write about remote culture and what we've seen worked really well for creating a cohesive environment with our own team. So these little tangential categories that we have that we write about other than just social media marketing are going to bring in a more diverse audience, as well as give us more content to post on Twitter to stay in compliance and get a really great consistent posting schedule out there still. So if you spend so much time writing a variety of content, adding value not only in the tweet, but in your blog posts, pulling these quotes out, giving them inspiration. So next, we'll talk a little bit about how we automate this. And first, I want to make sure you do not have to reinvent the wheel when you're doing this. We just want to make sure that automation is making your life easier, and providing a really consistent posting schedule can make it easier for your followers to really rely on the content you're providing. So when adding in variations to your Edgar account and getting these tweets out there, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Do what you know works. For example, you can just have a simple template like this. If you're sharing a link to a blog post, here's a foolproof thing that you can do to generate 10 tweets to get them out there, but you're still promoting that same blog post. First, you're going to make sure that everything you're introducing, whether it's the headline, whether it's a question or a quote, is really going to be there to show off your brand's voice. This, again, can be something funny in the headline, an informative headline. Just make sure it has personality in it so that it's grabbing someone's attention as the first thing they're reading in your tweet. Next, make sure every tweet has a goal in it. If your goal is to be sharing this blog post link, make sure you're putting that link right in there as the call to action. With this call to action, I definitely recommend going ahead and installing Twitter cards on your site. This will automatically generate the photo that you have on your blog post, creating that consistent experience for people to see that photo, have that visual recognition on Twitter, click over to your blog, and again, keep that consistency going. And visual content is so much more powerful on social media these days. Again, you want to make sure you're stopping someone's scroll through on their feed, and pictures are going to be the best way to do this. So if you don't have Twitter cards installed, or if you prefer just to have a text update there, think about other ways you can change up your tweets by adding in a different GIF or a different photo. Stuff like that can be a really great way to add in variations. And don't forget about hashtags too. You'll have this tweet, you'll have the URL, and wrapping it at the end with some hashtags can not only be a cute way to get some whimsical little quotes out there, it can also be a way to make sure your tweets are showing up in trending topics. So taking some time to research what's trending on Twitter and adding those hashtags into your Twitter updates is a great way to not only make them have different variations, but be discoverable by different user segments on Twitter. Excuse me. So that was the great anatomy of how you can add different blog posts in using a template, making sure you're not going brain dead when you're doing this. Next is making sure that you need to know you have a quantity of updates to add beyond just introducing your blog posts. And I cannot harp on this enough. Planning out your social media strategy, doing this in batches, and making sure you're kind of creating space in your day in order to do this all at once is going to be your best bet in following through to have a consistent posting schedule. So here at Edgar, we want to make sure you're not putting out those sloppy updates and you're not waiting till the last minute. And those variations of how you add your tweets are going to be huge in doing this. And not only chunking your updates into the categories that are predetermined, but again, researching what people are doing in your industry and other industries can give you ideas on the types of updates that you can add into Edgar and the types of custom categories you can create within your category tab. And with the amount of research that's done, saying when you switch tasks, you lose about 12 minutes onboarding yourself into the new task you're trying to start. Batching this into doing it in maybe a couple of hours a month is going to be a great way to increase your efficiency in other parts of your business too. And Edgar's categories can really help to guide your creativity. You know, when you're chunking your updates into categories, think about how robust you can be in making sure your followers are getting a variety of updates throughout the day. So the predetermined categories will provide you with things like inspiration, funny updates, blog posts. But again, get creative, get to know your audience, research what their pain points are, and try to bucket your categories to match them so that you're connecting at every update you're sending out with a segment of your followers. And look at some of the most popular tweets that are going on. Make a category out of the most popular hashtags that are going on to really challenge yourself to think creatively about introducing different language than you might be used to doing in your tweets. And use this as a way to kind of shake up your social media strategy, try new things, and experiment. We really like to niche it down here at Edgar too and say that anything you can do to get your authentic voice into the discussion is going to be so important. So think about the general topics you're writing about and how you can pull out different littler niches from that. Introducing those as the content that you're writing before the link can be a great way to generate more and more content as well. And this is a great opportunity to clarify how your perspective is different from your competitors. There's so much noise on social media, so make sure your unique voice is heard and you're giving people a reason to follow you and come back for more. And, you know, people really do connect with people. So doing things like thinking about choosing really emotional words when you're adding your adjectives, anything to spark curiosity. You know, it doesn't always have to be love and hate, these stronger words and these stronger emotions that you're adding in, but anything to spark curiosity, anything to make your followers go, huh, me too, I think that I relate to this, is going to really help them click on that link, go over to your site and increase your traffic more and more. Go back to high school English class, you know, use things like alliteration to help spark your curiosity. Can you introduce a headline with only the same letter? Can you make that kind of stick out on social media? Anything, again, to spark that creativity when introducing it is going to be a really great way to add more updates for that same post. You know, creating a bank of quotes will be awesome too. We've been talking a lot about how inspirational content is so good as standalone. You know, people are going to want to share this to their own page, opening up their entire audience to your brand, which is ultimately going to create some raving fans and some awesome traction for you. So go to sites like Goodreads, go to sites like Brainy Quotes. Think of what terms or what keywords are really going to resonate with the blog post that you're sharing, and search those keywords on these sites to pull out some quotes to add in before sharing your blog post link. It'll be a great way to not only get some inspiration in your followers' day, but also make sure you're getting that blog post out with a different variation on the text, so you're staying in compliance with those Twitter terms and services. Lastly, do not neglect user-generated content. This means there is so much value in all the support questions your support team's getting in their inbox, anything you see being tweeted at you or DM'd at you. This is user-generated content that you can ask a question. You know, you can use this not only to inform what types of blog posts you should be writing, but introduce that blog post on Twitter with one of the questions you see pop up on social media or in your support inbox. giving you, again, variations on sharing that same blog post over and over again. And the most important rule is to respect the reader's experience when you're doing this. So we're giving you a lot of ideas on how to go ahead and vary the text when you're introducing the blog post, but we really want to harp home making sure that what you're doing here is going to lead to a consistent experience when they do click over to your blog. So make sure you're always keeping it relevant. Again, searching the right keywords that you're going to mark your blog post with when you're doing SEO stuff, when you're looking for quotes, making sure those match up so you do get that great link trust with your community. Cool. So on the last slide, we talked about different ways you could chunk your updates into categories. And I wanted to share a little bit about how we actually do this here at Edgar. So these are the core types of content we share with our audience on a regular basis. And you can check out how much variety this has and how many people we would be able to catch with this net. We might be catching someone who's really interested in social media algorithms with one of our blog posts we send out, but we also send out the same amount of job opening announcements. We love making sure that our job candidates don't have to go searching for our posts, stuff like that. So think about how you can go ahead and split up your categories. And before you even start to add them, split it up like this with the percentages you see on the screen here. Again, if you plan it out, you are much more likely to do it. So take an hour, take some time to think about how much inspirational content you want to get out there versus blog posts. Everyone's going to be different. We don't want to give any hard and fast rules, but this has seemed to work pretty well for us here at Edgar and making sure we're having a robust posting schedule with a variety of content, building your updates to make it much easier for people to rely on the consistent content you're putting out there. Cool. And if you need more ideas on categories to create, think again about what upcycling really means. What tips can you pull out? What can you do about different releases that you're doing? Getting people really excited about a product release that's coming up can be generating that content beforehand, can be asking them questions during the release about how they're liking the new features of your product, and then thinking about how you can ask questions after the release to make sure your community has a buy-in. You're really creating that team atmosphere with your following when you're asking them questions. So you can do this with blog posts, you can do this with product releases. Creating something like testimonials on a regular basis is a really awesome way to get that social proof out there. Hey, this is how people feel when they use our product. We want you to feel this as well. Can be a way that you're promoting it with a testimonial, but still offering value, saying we care about you. Again, you have to show your followers you care about them before you can expect them to care about your brand and be brand advocates for you. Photos around your office. This is awesome for that kind of behind the scenes. Everyone wants to feel like they're getting a little something different out of following you. They're a part of this tribe that maybe not everyone gets access to. So showing that behind the scenes not only helps to humanize your business, it also helps you to get more and more updates out on Twitter that are going to be unique content for your followers to really bond with your brand. And whatever it makes it easier for you posts. I know this is kind of a wordy way to name a category, but it's an awesome way for you to go out throughout your day and think about how you can offer value. So this is anything if you've come across a way that you can read more books on the airplane. That might not have anything to do with the content that you're producing on your blog. However, it's a way that you can offer value to your followers and still make sure that you're getting more and more tweets out, having that presence on Twitter that offers value, but gets that variation in there. Awesome. So here's the math that I really wanted to throw out there as well, as you're getting maybe a little bit bogged down on the different categories that you might be setting up. If you do just want to use the 6 that we have determined in Edgar for you, this is some awesome math to give you confidence that it is so easy to do. So if you want to have 6 updates per day go out, and that's a pretty significant amount. If you want to have this go out 5 days a week, you're going to get 120 updates a month. Again, this may seem like a lot when you look at the number all in one, but let's batch it down here and let's really make sure that you're realizing that is only adding 20 new updates per category per month. So if you have time, an hour a month to add 20 updates to these, you'll know you have a whole month's worth of fresh content going out to Twitter. And doing this in batches is really going to not only save you time, but again, make sure you're staying consistent and getting those updates out to your followers. Cool. So last, we'll jump in and take a look at a specific example of how we do this here at Edgar. Here's one of our most popular blog posts that we get out to our audience, and one of our most newest blogs that we have out. So to stay in compliance with Twitter's new rules, when we share this post, the first time, we might go ahead and share it with just the headline of the post. It's going to provide people with what it's about. We want to make sure as we're publishing this blog post on WordPress that we're getting a lot of traffic to it. We're getting all of this awesome content that we've created for you out on Twitter. So a headline in the link going out, great, we've got it out there to promote to you guys. Next, we might test adding this link, but focus on a different aspect of the article. We might say something like, don't let the natural decay of your email list cost you more money. Here's how we cleaned up ours. So again, it's staying consistent with what this article is about. You can see within the URL that it's going to build link trust. You know exactly what you're going to do getting there, but it's also sparking your curiosity, saying, how do you do yours? And it might grasp onto a different segment of your users, really making them click through to that link, be led to your blog post, and get all of that awesome value-added content. And the third way you could do this is, again, go out and search for a quote. Go out and get something inspirational to add that will add value right in the tweet that you're sending out, and put that link at the end to still get people to click on over. So that might take you, 5 minutes to have the headline go out, to have a question go out with it, and to have an inspirational quote go out with it. And you can add these into your Edgar library all at once we get that variation of your content out as a feature. So it's not going to take that much more time out of your day. It's still going to provide your audience with so much value and make sure that you're getting your awesome blog content out and click-through rates up to your site. And focusing on different topics within the same post, we're actually going to be able to boost our click-through rates because we might be getting that attention for different segments of our audience. You know, a person who might not be interested in the headline might grasp onto the inspirational quote better. So don't see it as anything that's going to deter your followers from clicking through on those links more often. Cool. So that about wraps up our webinar today. We really want to make sure we're harping home that you get out there and try this for yourself. Take a blog post that you've written, take a tip that you know resonates with your followers really well, and write out 5 different variations for it today. You can challenge yourself by putting constraints on, like writing it with 10 words or less, getting that snappy Twitter content out there. And it won't take that much time, but you'll be creating awesome content for your users, staying in compliance with Twitter. Tweet them to see what goes out, experiment with how your language is affecting the relation with your Twitter followers, and make sure that you're really going to get a great, consistent and robust posting schedule out while staying in compliance. So thanks so much for joining the webinar today. Be on the lookout for these awesome new features coming out from Edgar shortly. Like I said at the beginning, we love to hear from the community. So make sure you're going ahead and sending us your feedback to support@meetedgar.com, or comment below on this video on any topics you're interested, any questions that are still standing out for you, and we're happy to get those answered. Have an awesome Tuesday, and thanks for joining the Edgar webinar.